All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in our bi-weekly awarded Teams call. We have a couple of members who would like to give you a short update on the progress of their projects. Alessandro, you can be the first.
Yes. So, I don't. Do I have to remind what the project is about? But okay. So, our project is called ZBrush. It's a control system for robot swarms. The plan has changed a little bit. We're focusing on drones at the moment. So the first focus will be on drones. We are currently at the second milestone. So we're working on the second milestone, finalizing that. And we're working on 3 different work streams. So we have the technical work stream, which is mostly led by my partner, Massimiliano. We are progressing there. We have built a system on the simulator. I don't have, unfortunately, videos. We will get them at the moment. We have built on the simulator a few different views and ways where you can control those swarms. So you have the drag and drop, like the point and click, choosing what drones to action. You can click on an area and tell them to explore that area. And other actions like this. We also have built 2 different visuals, where one visual is the like the mapping, which is going to be reconstructed from the cameras of the drones, and it will be the 3D mapping that is then what will go to the SingularityNET AR marketplace. And the other visual, the idea is that you can switch from one to the other. The other visual is a first-person visual from within the drone's camera. So on top of seeing those drones within the map from the above, and you see where the whole swarm is, you have also the option of just going inside the camera and looking at what the drone is seeing at the moment. So we are building that. We have starting to look a little bit on how to integrate also swarm algos, so to do a bit more efficient patrolling, exploration of areas, and basically moving. So this is the first work stream. It's probably the most relevant to you. Second work stream, which is mostly my task, is trying to get additional funding. So we are doing a proposal for Innovate UK, which expires in 2 weeks. We're trying to get something else so that we can actually move both full-time on this. I'll be taking a few months off from November to work on this, but my finances are kind of limited. So if we nail this Innovate UK, we'll be able to go for at least 1 year. That's the idea, at least 1 year full-time on this. Also building pitch deck for finance, for venture capital and private investors. So we are also working on that. We also have the design work stream that's keeping going on. So that's mostly designs for how the interface will look like, how the UX especially will look like. I think that's the key thing, because what we want to do is a control system that's easy to use, even for a non-technical person. Possibly you should be able to even use it on a tablet or something. Imagine if you want to put those drones in your home instead of security cameras or something like that. You might want to see what's happening from your phone or from your tablet. So we're kind of trying to figure out a way where it's easy for anyone to utilize it. Yeah, mostly that's it. Main changes are let's say, it doesn't change what we are building for SingularityNET, but it's changing a little bit the scope. Like, we are refining the scope so that it's a little bit more specific. So we have figured out that we think that on top of the software, just the control system, we need to at least have, in the short term, we need to have a pre-made drone fleet that we can just sell to someone, because otherwise the issue is yes, it would be nice to be able to just go and say we offer a custom project where we build, where you can design the drones and we talk to partners and everything. But point is, I think we need something that's just out of the box. We give you the drone swarm, you have the drones, you have the recharge points, and you have the control system. Drones just equipped with camera, maybe thermal camera, so maybe more for like landscape and how's it called when surveying or surveillance use cases that just can be actioned by camera, so we don't have to deal with other types of sensors and data analysis. But that obviously adds another layer of complexity because we have to deal with the hardware as well. So and so one focal point that we are actually looking to see is how the recharging works, because we basically need drones have quite a limited airtime. So if we want a swarm to be basically 24/7 or to operate for long periods of time, for hours on a certain area, we need to have a smart way where they can just land on these induction chargers. The other drones will realize that one drone is missing because it's recharging and start covering that area as well. So it's this is causing a little bit of headaches. We also have the issue of wind and rain, which considering that we're looking at trying to get small drones, because you want to swarm, you want them to be cheap. You can't do, the whole point is that what you will pay for one very nice, super expensive drone is divided in maybe 5 or 10. So we also need to deal with the fact that they need to be resistant to gusts of wind, or if it starts raining, they shouldn't just stop everything.
I love it. I love it. I love hearing you talk about it, because what I'm seeing now is all these realistic things and these real world things getting into the project that 3 months ago was basically an idea.
Yeah.
And so it's getting more real. And I also, I think it's great if you are trying to get additional funding. I think that's super. And it would be, I would also love to see you working full time on that and your partner. Then it would really be a life-changing thing for you, right? And if we from Deep Funding can have a little part in that, that would be wonderful. Small reaction on what you're describing right now. I think actually the problem that you're talking about of having to recharge these drones is also a solution, right? Because it's a solution to being able to guarantee 24/7 surveillance. Not sure if that's really a sympathetic idea, 24/7 surveillance, but of course we will only use it for beneficial purposes. But speaking of that, you mentioned the use case. If you are also thinking about somehow delivering hardware with it, I suppose you won't be developing a drone from scratch, but rather selecting a particular drone that you will target or something. But do you already have a clear-cut use case in mind for this first for the first swarms that you will have available?
So we thought a lot about that, and we think that, let's say, the easiest one would be, we're basically limited to what a camera can do. So the easiest thing would be either surveying, so basically mapping areas, or if you want, or security, basically. So you put it in your house. If we need still researching on the market and seeing, okay, would people put a drone swarm in the house instead of security cameras? I don't know. Let's say we thought a lot about that, and those are the ones with the less complexity, because once we started a lot in investigating agriculture use cases, so anything that could be used for agriculture, which is really probably one of the best use cases for drones at the moment, so for a swarm at the moment, because you can cover your fields better. You can get more data instead of just having one drone run around. The issue there is that it adds a new layer of complexity, because, for example, when in those agriculture use cases, you need to have some data processing things. You can't just take videos of, you can't just do a mapping of your tomato plants. You need to have a system that tells you if those tomato plants are ripe, or if they have diseases, or something like that. So that would be an extra thing that we are kind of delaying at the moment.
Alessandro, we are talking with somebody. I can't tell too much about it right now. I'm also not sure if it will end up in a project, but about exactly this use case right now. So yeah, if you're a little bit further ahead with this, yeah, we might even have a customer for you potentially. It's a long shot right now, but I'm just thinking it's not so far-fetched. So there are, so the least I can say about it is that there are projects being worked on that specifically need this kind of functionality, and you can still wonder if it would make sense to have 10 smaller or one big drone. But for agriculture, to be honest, about tomatoes, we are talking about that, but I can see there is a lot of benefit in such an environment to have 10 small drones instead of, I mean, even from the space where it has to maneuver, it makes sense. And 10 small drones can cover much more in shorter time sets than one big. So it makes a lot of sense, I think, if we can get that working properly. So I'll keep that in mind, and if the time is ripe, we can maybe connect you.
Nice, thanks.
So a lot of opportunities again. Thank you for that great ad hoc update. We discussed that maybe next week you have a more extensive update. Probably we'll record that as well. And for those interested in a more deep dive in your project, we might have something more to offer at that time. But thank you for this, not even that short, a very interesting update.
I missed for a while, so I missed these meetings for 2 or 3 of these meetings. So I took the liberty of talking a bit more.
Well, time well spent, I would say.
Thanks.
Ken, I think you also wanted to give us a little bit of insights on your progress on Carbix.
Yes, certainly. I just wanted to add to Alessandro, when you were talking about agricultural use, I was thinking about, can samples be taken for plant health or distributed over a crop, for example, or using other wavelengths of sensing like infrared and perhaps UV as well. What you're doing just fires my imagination for how it can reduce work and increase knowledge.
So there's definitely, there's a lot of stuff. There's even, like you put humidity sensors on them and you have a mapping of, let's say, I'm not a farmer, but you can put a lot of sensors, and instead now they're just placed on the ground, or they're just placed, you can capture what levels of carbon in the atmosphere. I don't know, there's a lot of things. What that implies is that yes, we can put a sensor and just send raw data, but really if you give a platform which calculates all these things, you need to also build the processing for all of this, so all the analytics and all the visualization. So maybe you want a mapping where with green you just see healthy tomatoes, and in red you see the diseased tomatoes. I don't know, something like that. There's a lot of other companies that are doing this also, so there's also quite a bit of competition there. I've seen mostly single drones that just fly once in a while and do this, or a lot of satellite imagery as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
it's fascinating. I can see blending that or bringing that into what we're doing with adaptive learning and being able to open up the field of learning the science and the utility of, say, agriculture or using these drones within a metaverse context. On our side, of course, we're focusing on adaptive learning. That's our next milestone. In preparation for that, we've created 2 new worlds, one with a cement facility in an alpine environment, and another geothermal facility within an Icelandic environment, which is particularly exciting because we get to do a lot of dramatic things like showing what it was a million years ago with volcanoes and fire. And now it's, of course, a caldera with snowmelt, and the snowmelt will help run the process of carbon capture through Carbix's innovative X2 unit. We're going to be adding another world, bringing us up to a grand total of 4, which is using what's called a hot rocks technology. Hot rocks. I'll try and say it not so Eastern Canadian. But the premise is that whereas geothermal, you require high temperatures and pressure in lava just under the surface, or magma. In the case of hot rocks, you have less pressure and less heat, but you can still utilize the energy. And that's going to look a little bit like the background behind me. It's just a coincidence, but it's going to be a very nice vacation-y sort of oceanic setting for that world. Now, we've also made some progress with the animation of the avatars. Starting initially with small loops in Unity, we had kind of a robotic behavior to the avatars. And in that case, we're also using kind of live lip sync, which is attempting to choose a phoneme based on the amplitude, basically, of what's coming in through the audio. We're trying to move that to as much pre-rendered as we can so we can capture more subtleties and more accuracy with the lip sync and more fluidity with the body language. Now, concurrently with that, we're also in discussion with an ML team to figure out what the adaptive learning approach should be logistically. And I'm using a white paper as a guidance for that, with a lot of very fascinating descriptions. So the premise is going to be, well, adaptive learning does exist. Adaptive lesson delivery does exist as a recommendation system. But if we were to look forward a generation or two, in terms of machine learning and in terms of instruction, what else do we need to enhance that? So since our project is based around delivery through avatars, nuance and focus and responsiveness in a humanoid form becomes very important for that. You may have someone who has worked 20 years on an oil rig, but doesn't really use computers. So this medium will be something that's more comfortable and we can show what to do in context. So alongside the delivery of the recommendation for the next lesson, we also need to convey signals to the avatar to say, use this behavior, use this phrase. Do we pre-animate phrases for lip sync? And then within the real-time environment, just ensuring that that animated lip sync and the audio lip sync all work together. So when we get to a further milestone for the American Sign Language, the ASL, we're going to be dealing with motion capture. At the moment, I have the capability to capture hands, but people are more than just hands. So when we get to that stage, we'll have a proper ASL translator working for us, but we'll also be able to capture the body language and the facial expressions that are concurrent with that method of delivery. So right now, it's kind of moving a lot of the pieces into place on the board so that when we get to that stage, it can all pile in and participate in an earlier level. For next milestone 3, we begin to get into adaptive learning in a real way. So we're going to be testing processes, and I hope to come out of milestone 3 with at least just a simple API, so we have some basics for integration as well. And then we'll plug it into our worlds and then see what chaos ensues. I'm sure it'll be very interesting.
That's a great story. I was wondering that lip sync feature, aligning the motion with the sound, basically. Would that also be a potential service on a platform that maybe others could use it as well in their worlds?
Yes, absolutely. You can break it down into 2 streams. You have the voicemes or the phonemes. You have emotion displayed on the face, which can be somewhat independent of the lip sync. So part of the API absolutely needs to deliver that information.
Yeah,
that
so
could be delivered.
emotion is the other part indeed. So if we could record emotions from people and then project them in the metaverse on their avatar, that would be very cool. Yeah.
It would be, and as you say, that is the next level of communication,
Yeah.
non-verbal. Yeah.
Yeah. It is not only cool, it's also extremely important, right? If we want the metaverse to really work, we can't just have all those bland faces. We need to
Exactly.
have something. And even if it would be like an animation or something like a figure, if it has your expression, it would still have that same feeling. I'm sure that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, mine would smile a lot for sure. It would be a Canadian culture. So if you're able to convey emotion with speech, you're also bringing culture into the mix. And so we begin to enrich the virtual environment that way.
Yeah.
Try not to smile.
You know, the funny thing with these kind of initiatives is that it could be, and what sometimes happen with these kind of projects is that something that you think of as a nice to have add-on, 2 years from now appears to be your main product. So it could be that all the rest will be an add-on to emotion detection and display or whatever. Yeah, similar to Alessandro with humidity sensors and having his own drone fleet, etc. Maybe in the end you will be renting this stuff, Alessandro, instead of creating a service. Who knows? But that's part of the interesting part of being an entrepreneur, and you encounter new things and new opportunities. And
if I could offer a little bit of a lighthearted combination, if we were to apply the emotion algorithms to Alessandro's swarms, then at a distance, the swarms could configure into an emotive face, an emoticon to say, yes, things are A-okay out in this field.
Oh my God.
And then get back to business.
There's some real synchronicity here that I can't tell you on camera, unfortunately, but there's exactly a use case like that we're thinking about. But yeah. Okay, so much cool things, guys, so much to talk about. So yeah, of course, with all these entrepreneurial freedom, I will be mentioning the value of the platform, because that is what we are trying to achieve. But also from that aspect, that respect, I only see opportunities and more opportunities coming along. So thanks a lot for these updates. Any other questions or comments? Then we'll leave it at this for today, and we'll be back 2 weeks from now. So thank you.